some kind of questions later on if you want. Okay.
Brilliant. Well, good evening to you all, and thank you for coming along. And what I would love to do in the next 45 minutes or so is share with you my journey over the last 8 or 9 years, talk a little bit about the challenges in the world of child rearing, and then talk more specifically about the messages of my charity, I Can and I Am. It may well have been that we spoke to some of your children last week when the bus visited the wonderful school that your children are at. So, folks, my story is that I'm married and I have 4 children. And I used to be a teacher. I taught for 16 years. And a number of those years I was teaching in a boarding school, and I was something called a housemaster. So looking after a boarding house of pupils. Back in 2012, so now nearly 9 years ago, I applied to become the headmaster of a prep school. A prep school, which is similar to a primary school, but it goes up to the age of 13. And I got that job, and that was great. We were looking forward to moving, and our children could go to the school. It was the first headship I'd applied for. All was good. And I was then asked to go for a medical. And initially I was quite excited. I didn't really know what happened at a medical. I thought, wow, gosh, that's quite unusual, quite fun. And it was really, folks, if I cut a long story short, it was there that I was sent off an MRI scan, and I was then diagnosed with a large brain tumour. And I remember coming home and telling our 4 children that Daddy had a brain tumour. And my eldest son, who's now 19, was then 10 or so. And he looked at me with his little chin wobbling as he tried to hold back the tears. And he just said, "Daddy, are you going to die?" Folks, that was a fastball. It was a really fastball. And I remember saying to him, "I don't know, my boy, but I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight." And it has been, and in many ways, it still is a bit of a fight. So I had 27 hours of brain surgery. I spent 80 days in hospital. I had this horrible little tracheostomy, which meant that I couldn't eat or drink or talk, which I sort of cite as 3 of my favourite pastimes to do in life. But the biggest challenge came after my second surgery. And as I talk to you all today, I am a registered blind person with no sight in my left eye and about 10% vision in my right eye. That meant, obviously, that I couldn't take up the job of being a head teacher. Not wanting your pity at all, folks. But at the end of the academic year, 2012, I had the job, the career, I knew where we were going to live, and the children's education. Everything was good. Then at the end of 2013, there was that moment where I realized I don't have a job. I don't know where we're going to live. I can't see. But then on the other hand, I've got 4 kids. I've got a wife. Really challenging time. And actually many of the challenges rumble on today. You know, I can't run. I used to love playing sport of any nature, and I now can't do any of it really. And I can't drive a car. So during this lockdown, I've been very sort of stuck here, really. But you know, one of the things that not being a driver has meant is that I spend a lot of time on trains now. And before lockdown, I got onto a very busy carriage of a train, and I sat down directly on a man's sandwich, and literally kind of crushed his sandwich to sort of, I don't know what, to kind of pancakes. And this man shouted out in a state of anger, excuse my French, "Are you fucking blind?" And I held out my white stick and I said, "Yes, I am." I think all the carriage sort of thought, this is like Monty Python. You must come again. This is fun. So I'm always having hazardous times and collisions and falling down things. And it's just part of the life I've kind of learned to live with, really. And so, folks, what happened next is what I really want to talk about now. Is it was sort of September 2013. So I'd been diagnosed a year before. I'd had my 2 big surgeries. I'd had a bout of radiotherapy, and we then had to move out of the school where we were working and we bought a smallish house on the edge of Bath. And at that time, a day in my life, I would literally put on my dressing gown and I would bum shuffle down the stairs, boom, 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 boom. I couldn't properly walk. And then I would take myself, holding onto the backs of doors and sofas and so on, to sit in my white chair. There I was, age 40, 4 young children, and I couldn't really do anything. I had a little high-pitched whimper of a voice. I couldn't walk properly. And I remember a man coming to see me. He wasn't really interested in all my can'ts. He wasn't a doctor, but he was a life coach. And he used to ask me the most searingly challenging questions. And the main one was, he said, James, what's your passion? And you see, folks, I was a sort of broken, destroyed human being. There was nothing left physically of me, really. But I remember him saying, what's your passion? And there was still a passion within me. Broken body, but the passion still lurked away. And I remember saying back to him in my little high-pitched voice, I said, my passion is to see young people believing in who they are and what they can do. And he then said to me, come on, let's do it. And I just sat there like this lump of, potatoes, bag of potatoes, kind of thinking, I can't do anything. But anyway, that's when the seed was sown. You see, folks, I sometimes see the journey of education a little bit like a funnel. I'm not sure if you can see my hands, but the funnel is wide at the top. We start the journey of education, maybe it's nursery or reception or year 1, and school is fun. It's full of unpredictability and spontaneity and come on, adventure, and lovely words like curiosity abound. But quite quickly, we start banging the academic drum, don't we? Quite quickly, school becomes about, come on, it's your reading age. Come on, it's your times tables. Come on, there's an assessment, there's an exam. We've got to pass this SATs. We've got to do this, GCSEs, A-levels. And actually, some kids go flying through the funnel. It's easy, no problem. Some kids find it harder, don't they? They find it really challenging. They find it really difficult. And they probably get stuck somewhere in the funnel and they start to speak over themselves with a sense of, I can't. I'm a bit thick. I'm a bit of a loser. I'm going nowhere. I'm kind of in the slow lane of life. So that's one real pressure that our kids have. They have that academic pressure. And there's another pressure which kicks in a little bit later in life, I hope. I hope it's not too kind of set at primary school, but by the time they move into secondary school, most of them have a telephone. And these phones, they're amazing, aren't they? And they're here to stay. We all have them. You can't not have them, really. But what I think is really difficult, certainly for teenagers, is that those time-honored gifts of friendship, of loyalty, of faithfulness, of being there in the good times and the bad times, somehow that doesn't seem to count anymore. These things, it's all about, look at me, aren't I looking buff? Look at me, aren't I looking good? Isn't my house lovely? Isn't my suntan amazing? It's often a very ego, which is a me-centric form of communication. And often the recipient, the person who receives it, feels a little bit less, doesn't feel so good about themselves. Often it does that to us. It lessens us. And they start to define themselves by how many people like that, how many people are following me. And you hear people say, oh, you loser. I've got. And people, that's no way to ever judge yourself as a human being. No way. So social media, along with academic pressure, of course, there are other pressures. Let's face it, we've all just had one, haven't we? Or are having one with COVID-19. And lots of other things. It might be at home and relationships at home. But those pressures are contributing to more and more young people dropping their heads with a sense of I can't. anxiety grows, then hope begins to go. That loss of hope. My life is not worth it. My life's no good. And then that final step is to say, do you know what? There's no point in me being alive. How tragic is that, folks? How utterly tragic is that? Now, folks, I don't want to sit here like a sort of blind bull doom monger, but I want to say to you that I do believe that there is a way through. And this is where my I can and I am balloon comes right into the forefront. And I don't know if any of you last week spoke to your children, but this is what we were trying to do with them on the bus, was trying to get them to understand how they can relate to, or how they can inflate their own balloons. And they were all given a postcard, which hopefully they've written on. But I want you to just understand what this balloon is all about. I want you to picture that every single individual, your children, have a balloon of well-being, a balloon of I can, a balloon of I am of value. And we want to see their balloons inflated, because when they're inflated, we feel better about life, but we also bounce back. That's that word resilience. So folks, too many young people are leaving school with that very sad state of affairs, a totally deflated balloon. And if we get into our cars, maybe at some stage tomorrow morning, and we drive off, and let's say the front left tire of the car has got no air in it, no air at all, and we drive off and we hit a curb and we drive through one or two potholes, well, that's when the rim of the wheel is going to get damaged. But in the same way, if we've got nothing in our metaphorical balloons, I don't know, we fail a test, we get dropped from a team, we put a funny little clip on Instagram, nobody even notices it. Everybody laughs at us because we've got a big nose, or I don't know. Can you see, folks? This time it's not the rim of the wheel, but it's us. It's our sense of self. It's our psyche. It's who we are that is getting damaged. So what I want to spend my time on now is, how can we inflate their balloons? How can we see their balloons inflated? And we have, as a charity, we have 4 pillars. And it's probably worth saying at this stage that I've done a TEDx talk. And should you want to listen to it, it's on the front page, or the homepage of our website. And it's basically sharing exactly what I'm going to share with you now. Okay, so the first of our 4 pillars, pillar 1, is that we all need to belong. Belonging is that sense that we fit in, we're accepted, we're part of it. And the importance of it is so important because we need to feel safe. Safety and security is of paramount importance to young people. And the main reason why we want them to feel safe is because then they are happy to be themselves. A good school allows people to be themselves, celebrates that individuality, lets people be who they are. A bad school will homogenize. There's the cool gang, there's the sporty gang, there's the, yes, of course, birds of a feather are going to flock together. But the key thing is that those guys who are a bit conspicuous, who are a bit different, are very much accepted. And I would love to say to you all now that my observation, or our team's observation after last week in the bus, is that actually the pupils at this school are so effortlessly kind to one another. And so much so that I've never really noticed it in any other school in the same way. But folks, when it comes to developing that culture of belonging, I always think one of the most important things is to create a culture of mutual encouragement, where they i.e. the pupils, encourage one another. They'll expect Mr. Chorley, they'll expect mum, dad, or tutor, or, you know, Mrs. Dutton, or whoever it is, to be saying, well done, that was brilliant. Now, but why can't they offer one another praise? I gave them a challenge last week, and I said, maybe each day you try and encourage somebody 3 times. Like I say to my own children, it costs you so little, but the recipient benefits so much. That creates a culture of, look at my hands, collaboration, which is working with each other rather than constantly being in that posture of competition, which is against one another. We want to be collaborators. If there's such a word, we want to be people that collaborate. And that will really benefit each of their balloons. Okay, so the second pillar is this idea of moving forward. As human beings, we love moving forward. We love progressing. It is such an important part of well-being, feeling like we're battling in this, we're battling in that, and sometimes that can weigh down. But actually, when we move forward, and our job as mums, dads, and teachers is to notice and applaud those small steps of progress. And when it comes to small steps of progress, I often share my own story of age 40, being hit for 6 with a tumor and losing my sight. And, you know, from that white chair, it took me about 6 months before I was able to walk on my own down a short road, cross over a road at a level crossing, and go into a shop and buy a bottle of milk and a loaf of bread. And when I had done that, I honestly felt like I climbed Mount Everest. The whole idea is to develop what Carol Dweck talks about in her book Mindset, a growth mindset. Instead of saying I can't, we say I can't do it yet. I remember coming out of hospital in November 2012. I couldn't walk, folks. I literally couldn't walk. So I went down to my mum's house, and I would get out of bed and I would crawl. I'm 6'1". I would crawl like a toddler to the top of the stairs, bum shuffle down the stairs, crawl through the hallway, push the door open into the kitchen like a dog would. And my mum would see her 40-year-old son, soon to be a head teacher, 4 kids, crawling because he couldn't walk. I wonder how she felt at that moment. Then I would sit on a sofa and wait for Lindsay to come along. And Lindsay's job was to teach me how to walk again. She would hold on to my shoulders. Well done, James. You've done 4 steps today. 4 steps. Again, I sobbed into my mum's neck. Mum, I'm 40 years old. I've got 4 kids. I'm still hoping to take that job as being a head teacher, and I can't even flipping walk. And I remember Mum saying to me, it's about small steps. And somehow this sort of iGen, or whatever you want to call them, these guys that live on these devices, they click a button and bang, it's done. Young people don't know what it means to just keep going and not give up. And so I think this is somewhere the kind of place that we should be trying to help our kids. If we can learn at the age of 8, 9, 10, the value of a growth mindset, I think that is something that really can make a difference. So I'd love to show you a short clip now, if Chris could put it on. And then I'll finish off about growth mindset, and then we'll look at the last 2 pillars. Thank you, Chris.
No problems. Just bear with me. Fingers crossed the sound works. It's always the sound that doesn't work on these things sometimes.
It doesn't seem to be working. Last night when I spoke, they just fired it up another time, and it seemed to work second time round.
Are you not? Can you not see anything at all?
I can see it, but I can't hear it.
Right, yeah. It's such a shame. It is such a shame.
What they did last night was that they just loaded it up a second time, and it seemed to work with sound then.
Okay, give me another go. Hang on.
Yeah. Bad luck. Not to worry, Chris.
No sound. Still no sound.
Still no sound. Not to worry.
Hang on. Let me try one more.
I lost all my hearing when I was 18 years
Oh,
old.
there we go. It's working now.
Wow. And how old are you now?
29. So it's 10 years.
Work this out. So you. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
And what's your name?
Mandy Harvey,
And who's this?
my interpreter.
What's your name?
Sarah.
Nice to meet you, Sarah.
Nice to
How
meet
are
you,
you?
Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
Doing well, thank you. Hello.
Okay, Mandy. So I think I've worked this out. So you're deaf?
Yes, I lost all my hearing when I was 18 years old.
Wow. And how old are you now?
29. So it's 10 years.
Wow. And Mandy, how did you lose your hearing, if you don't mind me asking?
I have a connective tissue disorder, so basically I got sick and my nerves deteriorated.
So you were singing before you lost your hearing?
Yeah, I've been singing since I was 4. So I left music after I lost my hearing and then figured out how to get back into singing with muscle memory, using visual tuners and trusting my pitch.
So your shoes are off because you're feeling the vibration. Is that how you're following the music?
Yeah, I'm feeling the tempo, the beat through the floor.
And Mandy, what are you going to sing?
I'm going to sing a song that I wrote called Try.
Okay, can you tell me what it's about?
After I lost my hearing, I gave up. But I want to do more with my life than just give up. So.
Good.
Okay.
Good for you. Okay, well, look, this is your moment, and good luck.
Oh, okay. I don't feel the way I used to. The sky is gray, much more than it is blue. But I know one day I'll get through, and I'll take my place again if I would try. If I would try. Oh, there is no one for me to blame, 'cause I know the only thing in my way is me. I don't live the way I want to. That whole picture never came into view. But I'm tired of getting used to the day. So I will try. So I will try. If I would try.
Mandy, I don't think you're going to need a translator for this.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I always find that. Can I speak again? I always found that very powerful indeed. I just think to myself, wow, she's got every reason under the sun to say I can't. Yet she gets up, plays that little ukulele and sings so beautifully in front of, let's be honest, the most scrutinizing of people, Simon Cowell. I think, oh, I couldn't think of anything worse. But I don't know if you noticed the lyric in her song where she said this: the only thing that gets in my way is me. And how often it is us, it's our children who say, no, I can't. And it's a fear-driven thing. There is a fear. What are people going to say? People are going to laugh at me. People are going to think I'm a bit weird. But I think if they can learn it now, that growth mindset, and I'll say to you that I put up my hand and say, guys, without it, I honestly wouldn't be here today. You know, once I couldn't walk, and it was last week that I rode on a tandem bicycle from Bath to Big Ben. You know, and that was when I couldn't walk, and I rode down the River Thames, and I've done things. Now, I don't say that to say I'm amazing. I'm saying it to say the growth mindset works. So the first thing is that sense of belonging. The second thing is that we love moving forward and use that growth mindset. And that's often, and our job is to notice, is to applaud. I sometimes say it's to employ those passive skills, to watch and to listen. And then the third pillar is that we are all uniquely made. Uniquely made. I got the pupils in year 5 and 6 last week all to stand up. And when they stood up, I got them to read out that quote from Howard Gardner's multiple intelligence theory, where he said this: don't ask how intelligent is X, but ask how is X intelligent. Which is basically saying that every single one of them is intelligent in one way or another. And sure enough, when we are in our place of intelligence, air goes into our balloon. I listened to a wonderful TED talk today by a guy called Eddie Zhang, an American guy who set up a business at a very young age as a technology business, but he was no good at school. He was no good at school, and he talks about how at school sometimes it can make us feel like we are totally hopeless. It's very linear, very linear. But actually, you look at the wagon wheel of intelligence and you realize there are so many of them. And I often say to mums and dads, I say, we should be talking about where they are intelligent, rather than saying, oh, they've got to do their maths, oh, they've got to do their French, oh, they've got to do. Rather than seeing them like a little academic robots, we see them as human beings with potential. And we look at them and we ask ourselves, where do you think they're intelligent? And get them into that space. If they're good with people, get them mentoring or showing around parents or doing whatever it is, because that puts air in their balloon. As well as all being uniquely intelligent, we all have a unique purpose. It was Ken Robinson, who's now sadly died, but Ken Robinson delivered a very well-known TED talk where he talks about how we all have an element, which is the joining point between what we're good at and what we love doing. And when those two come together, boom, it releases an energy, a charge. And again, this is where we should be observing those passive skills, watching, listening. Where is it that our boy or girl comes into their own? I always say computer gaming doesn't count. That's kind of like an escape. But what is it? Making things, mending things. For some, it might be sport or adventure or being kind, being caring. And when they move into that place, sure enough, their balloon is inflated. So these are the things that maybe you can talk to your children about. As well as talking to your children, maybe you can observe and speak to the school. Maybe if you're in year 5 or 6, see what they wrote on their postcard. We came at it from the point of view of what you truly love doing. And when we're doing something that we love, as I said, I wouldn't let them write computer games, but if it's cooking or taking the dog for a walk or being kind or, you know, playing a musical instrument, yeah, we write them down. When we do the things we love, sure enough, our balloon is inflated. But have that conversation. Where are they intelligent? Where is their purpose? Because we are uniquely made. And that moves us on to the fourth and final pillar. And this is this idea that we all have hope. And hope is that sense that something good is going to one day happen. And that is the opposite to depression, isn't it? Hope is the sense that good is coming. It's around the corner. It's going to be sunny. It's good. And my life has got a purpose. When I mentor quite a lot of young people, and when I mentor them, it's evident often that something is not quite right. And what often is the case is that they may have had a setback in their past. Something has gone wrong. And I always say that when something goes wrong, this is a time to learn. Isn't school a time for learning? Learn. We make mistakes, reflect on them, and refine ourselves. Reflect and refine. But often what people do when something goes wrong is ruminate on it, dwell on it, and then define themselves. So Michael, oh, I'm a blind man, and you give up at that point. No, we want to reflect, refine, and then move forward into that final posture of dreaming a dream. One day, what would you love to do? I always think the third pillar is quite a big steer, where they're intelligent, what their purpose is, and push on down that route. Because I think that when somebody has got a sense of purpose, their balloon is inflated. And I always say when I meet, whenever I meet any of my children's friends, I'll always ask them, what would you want? Oh, I've got to get those grades. I'll say, no, you're not an academic robot. You're a human being. And what matters most as a human being is that you have the right attitude. With a good attitude, and attitude's amazing because you can't have attitude taken out of you. It is part of you. With the right attitude, you can achieve great things. Now, I'd love to finish by showing you a short clip, and this is of an Australian man who's got no arms and no legs, but an unimaginably positive attitude. Let's watch this and then I'll wrap up. Thanks, Chris.
I wasn't ready. I have no arms and no legs, but I'm very thankful that I have my little chicken drumstick here. People freak out when they see me for the first time. It's so cool. I was at a water slide all by myself. Everyone obviously at the bottom of the slide is looking up and waiting for other people to come down, and here I come and they're freaking out. They're like, you know, like this. And I was so tempted to look at myself and go, what happened? You know? And there were times where I sort of looked at my life and thinking, well, I can't do this and I can't do that. And you keep on concentrating on the things that you wish you had or the things that you wish you didn't have. And you sort of forget what you do have. And there's no point, I believe, in my life where I wish I had arms and legs, I wish I had arms and legs, I wish I had arms and legs, because wishing won't help. But what I've seen in life are just a couple key principles, and the first thing that I've seen is to be thankful. It's hard to be thankful, man. I tell you, when I was 8 years old, I sort of summed up my life and thought, I'm never going to get married. I'm not going to have a job. I'm not going to have a life of purpose. What kind of a husband am I going to be if I can't even hold my wife's hand? It's a lie to think that you're not good enough. It's a lie to think that you're not worth anything. Oh boy. Woo! It's freezing, I can't feel my hands. I love life. You know, so many people come and say, how come you smile so much? And I'm like, well, it's a long story. But it's very simple at the same time. You see, it's very hard to smile sometimes in life. There are things that happen that you don't know and you don't understand, and you don't know if you're going to get through it. You know, you go through your storms in life and you don't know how long this storm's going to be. And today I want to share with you some principles that I've learned in my life that you can use in yours. Being patient is beautiful. I tell you, it's the hardest thing. But I realize I may not have hands to hold my wife's hand, but when the time comes, I'll be able to hold her heart. I don't need hands to hold her heart. You know, it is scary to know how many girls have eating disorders. It is scary to know how many people are just angry at life because of their situation at home and angry at others. It's scary to know how many people actually feel like they're worth nothing. Every single girl right here, right now, I want you to know that you are beautiful. You are gorgeous just the way you are. And you boys, you're the man.
Brilliant. Thank you, Chris. An amazing little man. An absolutely mind-boggling little man. And what he has taught me, I've learned so much from him along the way, is that principal idea of learning to be grateful. Don't always dwell on what you can't do. Don't dwell on what you don't have. That is what the world is so often trying to tell us to do, isn't it? Media and these constant TV, and what our kids probably grow up with, that sense of, oh, but I haven't got, oh, but I'm not. But actually get them to learn. And I think in America that schools have these gratitude diaries at the back of their, I don't know, their weekly planner or whatever. They write down at the end of the day 3 things that they're thankful for. And I will say again, hand on heart, that learning to be thankful for what I do have and can do has really helped me come to terms with a very different life. So folks, there it is. There are pressures on our young people, academically, social media. I think social media we need to accept is part of life. But I always say it doesn't need to be everything. And they need to learn to regulate it. But those pressures go to contribute to more and more young people, along with other pressures, of course, more and more young people dropping their heads with a sense of I can't. And I want you to imagine the balloon and imagine your children all having a balloon. And we want to see their balloons inflated with a sense of I can and I am. Belonging is important. Do they belong? Teach them to encourage others. That sense of collaboration is so important. Secondly, the thrill of moving forward. The thrill. I remember as a teacher having a boy and the bar was so low when I started. You know, it was literally a case of he did up his tie in the morning and I would sort of give him a mint, a bit like a horse. I would kind of come and give him a mint. And that then led to a forward movement and a kind of sense of progress. And we move from that to the next thing, to the next thing. It's a bit like a tennis ball and a sorry, a snowball and a kind of growing in size. The third thing, they're all uniquely intelligent. Where? Do have a look on our website. We tried to simplify the wagon wheel so you can see and you can read and you can notice. And again, when they're in that place, air goes in their balloon. As well as being uniquely intelligent, they all have a unique purpose. Some, it may be at school, the sport or music or drama, it gets seen, it gets noticed. But for some, it may be something you need to notice at home. They like making things or mending things or cooking or chatting or, you know, I don't know, different things. And when they're in their space, yes, they're in their safe place. And then that final thing, the message of hope, which I think as mums and dads, we want to be doing with our children ad nauseam. That sense of you've got what it takes, you can do it. And when something goes wrong, we don't jump on them, but we say, okay, what can you learn from this? Reflect on it, refine, and move forward. And you move forward into that place of you're a big human being with loads of potential. Come on, have the right attitude, and you can make this life. We have one life, just one go at life. Let's make the very most of it. So, folks, let me finish there. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope there's something of value for you all there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, James. Really appreciate it. It's been it's so good listening to you, and I'm sure that the people who have joined us can see how it resonates for our children right now. I don't know. I'm just going to leave it. If anyone does want to ask James anything, now's your chance.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. I'm Tobias's mum. He's in year one. Tobias is partially sighted as well, and I just wanted to say that this was so inspiring, and I wanted to thank you.
Oh, that's thank you.
I often feel I don't know what to say to him when he says things like, I want to be a racing driver or a firefighter, and I know some of those things aren't going to be possible for him, but I would never tell him, no, that won't happen. I'll say cars might be driving themselves by the time you're 18 or something like that. It's just finding a way, isn't it?
I think the reality is that, you know, the world is so much better prepared now for, you know, these forms of disability. And I remember being told by my surgeon, you better go and learn how to speak Braille. You're a blind man. I thought, happy Christmas to you too. Yes. And but I, you know, of course I don't use Braille. I don't think really anybody does now. It's, you know, there is so much in the audible arena, and there's just a real sort of sense of, yeah, we can do other things. And I think, you know, that last message of that little guy, don't dwell on what you can't do or don't have. And, you know, I'll just tell you a story that's just come to mind. I've still got 50% of my tumor in my head. Thankfully, it's benign tumor, but once a year I need to go back. And it was 3 or 4 years ago, so I hadn't seen him for 5 years, but I bumped into my surgeon in the MRI reception area. And he came up to me, and strangely enough, he remembered exactly who I was and what my name was. Hello, James, how are you? And I said, I'm okay. Did you take the job of being a head teacher? I said, no. He remembered that I was hoping to, and I said, no, I couldn't. And I suppose at that moment, I fell into that metaphorical kind of poor old me pity puddle. And I'll never forget, he tapped me on the shoulder and he said, James, I want you to know something. He said, I was that far from deeming you inoperable. He said, you had so much tumor around your brainstem. I just looked at you and I thought, you're going to be paralyzed. And he then said to me, and this was the important bit, he said, James, remember to be thankful. To see you walking and talking today is a miracle. And I think that is the important thing. Dwell on those things that you do have and can do, and don't always dwell on your can'ts. and we'll realize actually, and that's where the gratitude comes in, you'll realize actually there's quite a lot of stuff, quite a lot of good stuff, but we're very good at kind of giving all our airspace and airtime to everything that we haven't got and can't do. And I think that's been a real lesson I've had to learn.
Thank you so much. So inspiring.
Pleasure.
Okay. All right. Well, that's nearly exactly an hour. That's impressive. Thank you. I think, yeah, no, I don't think we've got anything else. But thank you for that contribution, and thank you. Just want to say thank you once again, James. And like I say, we will this will be put on our YouTube channel, so other I know it's going to be accessed by some other parents.
Great. Great.
We really hope to see you back in our school sometime.
Oh, brilliant. Well, thank you for having us last week, Chris, and wonderful to speak to you all today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It was brilliant. Fantastic.
Pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks very much for joining us, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, folks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.